Hi and welcome to this week's Retvlog. And well, Antorus has gone live. It's the heroic normal week. The mythic week's coming out next week, and Blizzard had already said that after the live data has come in that they may be doing some class tuning, which may include the old tier, the tier 20. Remember, what they want to avoid us doing is prioritizing 4 set tier 20 with just 2 set tier 21. Obviously, at a certain point, item level will take over. There's bound to be more benefit in taking 4 set tier 21. But Blizzard would really rather we did that earlier rather than later, for those who have the choice of having the 4 set tier 21. But that's not the way it is for us. At the moment, until item level starts to cause problems, 4 set tier 20 plus 2 set tier 21 is preferable to the other way around. I mean, Blizzard don't actually even want the other way around. They don't actually want us having 6 set bonus, but you know what? They created that situation. So what can they do about this? So the obvious thing is to nerf 4 set tier 20 for whatever specs that this is going to apply to. And people have been saying, well, how can they do that? Because our 4 set tier 20 means that Blade of Justice generates 3 holy power. You can't just nerf it down to 2 because that's what it does baseline. There are ways. I mean, there are 2 things they can do with the old tier 20. They could nerf the 2 set because that's an easy one to nerf. And that's the sort of easiest one to nerf, where it's like increases the damage of something by a percentage. You just reduce that percentage. But of course, nerfing the 2 set wouldn't necessarily help. In theory it could, because if the overall package by nerfing the 2 set means that you actually get more benefit from taking 4 set tier 21 and no tier 20, but taking the legendary cloak instead. Legendary cloak and Soul of the High Lord, Whisper of the Nathazim, Soul of the High Lord, pretty good combination of legendaries with this tier. But of course the cloak takes up a tier slot. So until your item level outstrips the benefit of taking any tier 20, we're sort of not going to be wanting to use the cloak as soon as we can have at least 2 pierce tier 21. So what Blizzard are going to have to do is nerf the 4 set. And it is possible. They can do it. And it's something that's not going to be very pleasant. I'm not looking forward to it at all. And that is that they could change the Blade of Justice gives us 3 holy power to there's a chance that it'll give us an extra holy power. It's a proc. Random. Sometimes Blade of Justice will generate 3 holy power. Sometimes it will generate its normal 2. Won't that be fun? Now, I know, a lot of Paladins like proc game base play, and some of it is quite fun. Like, Divine Purpose, remember, as a talent, only exists in the game in Legion because a lot of people asked for it in the alpha. It wasn't actually there originally. A lot of people said, look, we like that, we want it, and they put it back in. They didn't put it back in a situation where we could realistically take it until, of course, we got Soul of the High Lord, but it was there. The big problem for me with this particular proc is the starter. Apart from anything else, just losing the 4 set tier 20 will be a bit of a shift because we're used to the idea, we've got the muscle memory for the idea that Blade of Justice generates 3. So we know when we use the Blade of Justice, we can spend. We know we can spend. It doesn't matter if we had no holy power. So my starter, for example, especially as human, no arcane torrent or anything like that. My starter is Blade of Justice, Judge, Crusade, into it, spend. Build quickly, Wake of Ashes, spend again, Crusader Strike, spend, or Blade of Justice, spend again. That sort of thing. We already have a bit of proc, of course, with Blade of Justice because we use Blade of Wrath. And but again, we know that when we use it, we've definitely got enough to spend, regardless of how much holy power we had before we used that. That's going to change. So already it's going to need a bit of time on the training dummy to get used to this, to break the old muscle memory. Otherwise, you're going to keep trying to spend when you haven't got enough if you're not paying attention to your holy power. But, or even if you just, because the speed of which retribution rotation takes place, sometimes you will just do that. And I'm expected to do that now and then. But at the start, yeah, so it's like, I could do Blade of Justice, Judgment, Crusade, spend, and it might work. If they do this change, if they make this change where it's a chance of generating 3. So sometimes it will work. Sometimes it won't, and I'd have to use a Crusader Strike. So then I have to slow myself down to see what it did. Did it generate 2 or did it generate 3? If it generated 2, I need to use a Crusader Strike before I want to use Judgment, Crusade, spend. So that's delay. I mean, it might only be a minor delay, depends on your reaction time. It might only be minor, but it's still a delay at a time when you've used your pre-pot. It was particularly bad at the start. You've used your pre-pot, and you wanted to build up those stacks ASAP. Especially if you're going to be using Chain of Thrain, because if you've got the 2-set tier 21, you are using 2-set tier 21, 4-set tier 20 at the moment, and probably Chain of Thrain and something else, like possibly Soul of the High Lord, possibly Liadrin's Fury Unleashed, you know. If you've got 3 Abyss Netherlight Crucible traits, you may even be using the new Insignia Legendary, but you'll have to sim that for yourself. So let's go with Chain of Thrain, Soul of the High Lord, as an example. So in this situation, it's like I'm having to slow myself down at that point, as well as just get used to the fact that Blade of Justice will sometimes generate 3 and sometimes 2. So that means you get into a situation where, let's say you've got 3 Holy Power, but you've got Blade of Justice available. Of course you want to use that. Remember, Blade of Justice still does a bit of damage. Even if you're just using, even the 2-set tier 20 means that we get a benefit from using Blade of Justice whenever we can. Blade of Justice does a lot of damage. You may also have traits, extra relic traits that boost it still further. So, are you going to risk wasting a Holy Power? You know, it's going to be really, really annoying. What I would probably advise is, if you've managed to get yourself, however, you've probably not been asking for it in terms of Loot Council 4-set at the moment, but if you've managed to sort of coin, you've got yourself 4-set tier 21, I'd be very tempted just to start using it now, start practicing it now and getting used to it, because I'm certain that come next reset, almost certain, let's say 97.235% certain, that come next reset, that if you've got the option, you would favour 4-set tier 21 and 2-set tier 20 over the alternative. It may even be, depending on the item level of your tier 20, you'd have to sim this for yourself. It may even be that maybe Whisper of the Nathrazim does become worth it. Maybe the 2-set isn't powerful enough, but that's personal to you. I'm still expecting to use the 6-set bonus either way. But yeah, I will still have 4-set tier 20. And hopefully, at the moment, I've got 1 piece of tier 21. Hopefully, I'll get another piece. I've still got the last few normal bosses to do on my Paladin tomorrow. So, hopefully get another piece there. I've got some coins to spend on the last few bosses. But we'll see how that goes. We'll see how that goes. But that's what they could do. So, a lot of people sort of saying, well, we can't really nerf the 4-set, can they? They can, and that's how they could do it. And that would make it super, super annoying. I'd rather they just made a completely different 4-set bonus that wasn't quite as strong. Maybe, you know, because that would actually be quite good. I wouldn't mind that if they just completely removed that set bonus. Even though a lot of people like it, a lot of people are calling for it to be baseline the next expansion, all that business. But I would rather they just got rid of it and replaced it with a boring increases this thing by a certain percentage, which made it, you know, okay, but not as good as the 4-set tier 21. That would be my preference, but I don't think that's what they're going to do. I think they're just going to make it a random proc chance on that 3 Holy Power, rather than change the nature of it completely and confuse a lot of people. In terms of other things in Antorus, how's it been going? Well, I missed most of the heroic bosses. I was working late on Wednesday, which is when my new guild, started clearing it. So I only came in on heroic from Varimathras onwards. I've done most of the other bosses on normal now, but not absolutely all of them. Argus is fun. Argus is funny at the end of it. Fortunately, I have a weak aura that when the ads at the end, because what you're looking for to Retribution, or any class, is there's a load of ads around the outside, and they're all especially vulnerable to a particular type of damage. So obviously everyone wants to peel off and attack the ad that is most susceptible to their main source of damage. Well, our main source of damage is holy, and it's not just a bit over 50%. Main source of our damage is holy. Obviously, with Blade of Justice nowadays, you know, the fact that we're using Blade of Justice, that's physical damage. All right, it's not as much as it would have been, you know, maybe with like Divine Hammer or something like that back in, a long time ago it seems now, before when Divine Hammer was pretty much the go-to talent to take. But still, an awful lot from, especially if you've got the 2-set, if you've got the 2-set tier 21, that Judgment, Massive increase in that, which also favours you taking a load of mastery. As soon as you've got 2 set tier 21, obviously it's in for yourself, but you are likely to see at that point that you want to start piling on the mastery. Once you start piling on the mastery, you'll also see that actually taking greater judgment in a lot of situations, if not all situations, is pretty good as well. And then loading up on that mastery, of course, means your Templar's Verdicts and Divine Storms are going to do a load more extra damage. So you want to be seeking out that ad, and I've got someone linked to WeakAura, I've got a WeakAura that basically pastes over their faces what type of damage they're most susceptible to. So as soon as I saw the one with holy damage, like, over there, that's where it is. It died rather too quickly, actually. I don't know what was going on there, given that it was myself and another Ret Paladin, and even given that there might have been a disparate, there wasn't really very many people that would be doing extra holy damage. It died quicker than some others, which confused me a little bit, but there you go. You know, it's what it was. I haven't bothered looking through the logs to see who else was beating the shit out of it. Although I suppose they wouldn't. You know, maybe they had a lot of. I wasn't really looking at the raid. Maybe there was a load of dot class and everyone's just dotted everything and then focused on the one that does the most of their damage. But yeah, absolutely, you want to get yourself a WeakAura that says, and I can't link it unfortunately because I can't. Someone just linked it to me. I don't know where the Wago page for it is. But get yourself one that sort of blasts on it. This is the holy ad, and go straight to it, pony over to it. And then in the last phase, of course, there was a lot of talk about this. In the last phase, people die, and you know there's a tree you can go over to get yourself rezzed again. And there was a lot of talk about whether that would prop the Retribution passive, because it's an essential part of the fight, and you know, Blizzard have already screwed us over on the Retribution. Well, they've screwed us over on the Retribution passive by giving us a Retribution passive. A terrible ability. But given that they've given us it, they've already screwed us over. If anyone reses using, say, the Shaman res totem, then we don't get the Retribution prop. Very unfair. And the talk was that the same sort of thing would happen here. Even on the PTR, we were still getting the Retribution prop, that we wouldn't get it here. Apparently, we still do. Whether we would on Mythic is another matter. I still sort of have a sneaking suspicion they're going to, like... I don't know, though. Is it really fair to screw us over on that particular one? Because the problem there is no one's gaming it by deliberately dying, although in theory people could. You know, they are just dying, and there's just a way... It's just the nature of the encounter. It's there to kill lots of people and give them a way to res back up again. But yeah, so at the moment we get that. So there are 2 periods of that fight where we can absolutely go insane. So as soon as we start getting, or as soon as I start getting better ideas about the timings of everything and plan for it a bit better, wow, going, I'm off. So there we go. That's where we are so far with it. But yeah, do keep an eye out on that tier bonus, if indeed you've got that choice. I mean, maybe you're only joining for Antorus, you haven't got any tier 20, in which case, you know, just go with it, get yourself your tier 21. But if you do have loads of tier 20 and you've got the choice of whatever you want to swap in and out, and you've got a full choice of legendaries, then at the moment it's 4 set tier 20, 2 set tier 21, but I strongly suspect in a few days they will make changes that are going to encourage us to take the 4 set tier 21. Maybe still retain the 2 set tier 20, because that's still decent. That's still pretty good. And probably I'm thinking of Chain of Thrain and Soul of the High Lord. But again, sim that for yourself. See what you think of that. But do remember, when I'm going to be using Chain of Thrain, you have to get absolutely top use out of your Crusade. So start to look at timings. When am I going to get the best use out of it? Especially on Argus. Especially on Argus, when you're going to get the extra damage. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe and share. For further content, I will be bringing out a companion guide, a shorter guide on the specifics of Retribution for Antorus, taking into account some of the changes. I don't think I need to do a new Essentials guide because it's still all basically the same from the last time I did one. So I'll just do an update guide. That'll be coming out hopefully in the next few days. So thanks very much for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.